Two Time is one of the 8 survivor characters you can play as in Forsaken. His role in the team is, well, he doesn't really have one. I mean, you can check the wiki and it'll say that he's a survivalist, but I feel like that's not as accurate as to what he actually entails. Spawning with no abilities in the game, he has a passive that allows him to respawn with 40 HP after death. And that's pretty much it. What? You thought there was going to be like an extensive explanation or something? I mean, I guess he gains speed 2 for like 5 seconds, then weakness 5 for 10, meaning if he gets hit within any period of that time, he sort of just instantly dies. Oh, here, I know. This is what you're waiting for. If I had to describe how it feels to play Two Time, it would go a little like... Okay, stop it. Every character has the capability to do this. I mean, I've literally shown it before, and you can literally see a Shedletsky there with me, copying my exact same movement. I mean, look. There's really nothing else to say about the guy. Even Noob has more of an intricate gimmick, as he controls when he gets a speed 1 boost, use Slit-Skin for defense and stamina regen, Ghostburger to pull off shenanigans at endgame, but Two Time? Even down to the health he actually receives, if you put the 2 phases together accumulatively, he barely scrapes by with 120 HP, which is 5 more than Guest 1337, who actually gets abilities, or hell, still less than Chance, who can roll up to 130. So, in reality, what is the point of Two Time? What is this character worth? With absolutely no abilities to play with, and a gimmick that he doesn't even have control over, why on earth would anybody pick a class like this? You know, I pondered this dilemma for a while, and I wasn't quite sure myself. So, naturally, I decided to play him. Deprived of any sort of abilities, my expectations were met. There's nothing I could do for my team except generators, which in all fairness still does help the team out as it runs the timer. But again, that's not unique to Two Time. After doing generators, then what? Sit around for 2 minutes as I watch the killer attack everyone else? I mean, Two Times are just that forgettable and useless that even killers won't come after me. I am practically a ghost for most of the game. Eventually, however, I am still a survivor, and the killer still has to kill me to win, so I get chased. And when I do, expectedly I can't really do anything to help myself. The only thing you're able to do is run. But now, instead of worrying about flipping a coin or when I'd have to time my parry, my only concern was stamina management. But then I started noticing something. I was actually dodging the killer more consistently than before. No, not dodging, but this thing, I forgot what it's called, but I'm pretty sure it involves you running around an object or wall, almost as if you were putting the killer in a circular pattern, like a loop. That's right, I'm actually looping the killer, making sure that my every single movement and every single micro maneuver is spent perfectly executed around these walls, without the worry of needing to use abilities as much as I can, which can involve stopping my loop. I can focus on the one thing that matters most, stamina management, ensuring that every single time I take a turn, there is no chance I waste my stamina to let the killer catch up. And even if I do make a mistake, the small edge of being able to receive speed 2 on your first death allows you to extend this loop just a bit longer, effectively doubling your pathing. Alright, let's take a step back. Why is this any different to me just playing as any other survivor in the game? Oh shit. Well, that's the funny part. It actually isn't any different. Your capability of looping is present in every single survivor. The only difference between Two Time and other classes is the fact that looping has become your only method of survival. No more baiting punches, no slashing your sword or shooting your gun, just pure, raw looping. And that's what I was missing the entire time. Two Time is a tutorial character. I mean, even the game acknowledges that itself with a 1-star difficulty rating. There is nothing for you to do as 2-time, yet that is exactly why you would pick him, to introduce the concept of looping and to allow you to get the fundamentals down before playing with actual abilities. It's a stepping stone for other classes, that once you've nailed down how to loop with 2-time, you'll be able to do it with Builderman too, because when your buildings go down and you're getting chased, you are effectively as useful as a 2-time. Nothing to help you in the moment aside from your wits. 2-time is the core gameplay loop of Forsaken boiled down into a character. But that's the thing, the gameplay loop isn't that stunning. You run around and avoid the killer as you run the timer down. What classes do is spice up how you approach your loop. 2-time does not. 2-time's gimmick is to do exactly what every other survivor does and gets rewarded for doing so. You are supposed to learn off him, so you're able to be more effective on every other class. Does this make 2-time a good character though? Absolutely not. By all means, you barely have any control over when you receive your speed boost, unless you're purposefully getting yourself killed, which would be quite illogical, and at that point you're just throwing. You serve as the epitome of a selfish survivor compared to everyone else. You can't do anything for your team. You may say that about other survivalists like N7 and Noob, who also can't do anything for the team, but you would be wrong, as they both have the potential to body block the killer at no expense. To body block as 2-time is still a sacrifice which is a detriment to your team. Remember, every single kill the killer gets bumps up the time. If you make it easier for him to kill you rather than the Elliot, you're still making it difficult for everybody else. But that's the thing, 2-time is not supposed to be a good character, let alone a team player. Yet, ever since I started playing him, I got better at looping on other characters. I started seeing routes that I would have never considered otherwise, as usually my mind shifts to what I can do with a character's roster of abilities. When you play as a guest, you don't transfer your ability to block punches on Builderman. When you play as Builderman, you can't transfer your skills of when and where to place buildings on Chance. Chance doesn't have a PhD, he's a prolific gambler. However, when you play as 2-time, you can transfer your skills of looping to any other character, and that instantly makes you better at those characters. But that's the thing, I voluntarily chose to play as 2-time because I got fed up with people picking him and came in with the sole expectation of me completely ragging on the survivor. But even with my less than open-mindedness, not everyone is going to do that, and not everyone is going to necessarily be excited by the idea of receiving 40 HP after being killed with no other interesting abilities. Instead, he costs 400 points, which could instead be spent on a survivor like Elliot, which is far more appealing to players as he functions as one of the core support survivors essential to a team winning. But then, players miss out on the learning experience that 2-time provides. That's something like Noob cannot provide, as you're constantly thinking about the 3 abilities that you have to your disposal. When you're reduced to nothing, your thoughts become far more simplified, and the way you play the game is also simplified. If it were perhaps changed and instead 2-time was an alternative to Noob as a free character to play, more people would be inclined to choose him and actually experience the fundamentals on how to loop and be decent at the core gameplay loop. However, this is not the case, and instead 2-time is supposed to be a survivalist you unlock in later stages of the game. Of course, unlocking him isn't difficult, but it is curious how Elliot seems to be cheaper, yet is a more difficult class to get a grasp on, as he is fragile and has a few gimmicks to keep track of. Like how player healing is dependent on how many generators are completed. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. I mean, you gotta do extensive research to figure something like that out. Or how about this? How rush hour refills on each heal. You know, I bet you didn't know that either. That's because they're a little far more intricate than 2-time's singular passive. So, yes, although 2-times have given me their fair share of crash outs, I can understand the appeal of it. You would get yelled at if you played Shitletsky without stunning the killer and only trying to loop, but you wouldn't with 2-time. That goes for every other survivor. It dumbs down the game to what it is, running circles around a wall for 3 minutes straight. And with practice, you will get better and better at running circles. But past that learning phase, 2-time ultimately gets outshined by every other class. Once you've learned how to loop, you may as well place buildings while you're at it, or incorporate stunning in your path, or spice it up by throwing the killer off with clones. Because there really is nothing special special about the survivor. He was never meant to be special. And eventually, you'll forget about him. And eventually, the only memory of two time you'll have are those sweet, soft, tender moments of you trying to learn how to run around that table without dying. How much you've grown to swerve the killer's attacks when necessary. It'll be thanks to two time, but you'll be out there doing greater things with greater survivors. So, the next time you see a two time mindlessly wandering around your lobby, instead of immediately rolling your eyes, just tell yourself, it's just a phase. They'll grow out of it soon. Because that's what two time is. Just a phase. A phase of learning the fundamentals of how to play Forsaken. Unless you actually main him and refuse to play any other survivor, then we seriously have a problem. Like, genuinely, do you hate being a team player? Is that it? Is that what it is? Do you hate having fun? Do you love making other people's lives miserable? You sappy contrarian! Now, before you comment to remind me for the 90th time, I'm already aware. Two time is due for a rework, which means pretty much everything I said here will be rendered meaningless when that drops. However, I do think it's still important to consider the implications of what two time offers in its current state, and the lessons it teaches. Because if you ask me, two time doesn't need a rework. Otherwise, check out my other videos on guest and chance, because they're pretty cool, I think. Okay, ciao.